Hi, my name is Jared Wilson. This is my Module 12 case study for Ed Law 850. Let's go ahead and get started going through the content. So first things first, Miss Lynn is a computer librarian specialist leading the implementation of a new technology program at St. Regis. In an attempt to save money and better student education, she has knowingly, illegally made copies of the new program to share with other teachers. Many teachers enjoyed the copies and implemented them in their classrooms over the past 4 weeks. Miss Evans is the PTA president, and she agreed with Miss Lynn and thought it would be a great idea to share that information, all while saving money. Miss Brandon has had previous knowledge of copyright laws and felt uncomfortable with using the materials, so she didn't accept those materials and shared her concerns with the school principal, Mr. Sample. Looking at the ethical and legal issues surrounding this scenario. So ethically, you have people that are intentionally breaking the law and or the contract, so they know that it's against contract what they're doing, the resources that they're using, also that it's against the law. We know that because it's been brought to her attention. Both Mrs. Brandon and Mr. Sample brought it to the teacher's attention that what she was doing was illegal. Again, ignoring or disregarding the software license copyright, it is provided that she understood, she saw where it was not supposed to be distributed, yet she continued to record and then distribute that information. Next was that the software company was not notified, so they were not told of the materials that were being taken. And really the idea that you're no longer taking on a lawsuit just on your own, but your lawsuit's also going to affect all of the staff that work there, all the staff in the district, also the students that go to school there, and really the community for all the people, the jobs, everything surrounding it. The legal issues. So you have copyright infringement, product marketability. When you're taking that product and you're using it, and you are taking away from its value from how it can be sold to other individuals, takes away that marketability and significantly increases your chances for lawsuit. The software license prohibits the copying and distribution of the product, and also that copyright laws remain unclear in some areas of software use, but what is not unclear is how the software license prohibits the copying and distribution of that product. So in one sentence, Mr. Sample, a principal at St. Regis, must make a decision on behalf of the school after discovering that teachers have committed copyright infringement of technology programs and thus has caused a rift in ethical viewpoints among the staff. So let's analyze the facts here. People involved, so your key players, your key components. You have Mr. Sample. He's been a principal at St. Regis for the last 3 years. It states he was not from that area, so when he got to that area, he worked very hard to establish himself, establish a relationship with the community. You have Miss Lynn, and she was a media and library specialist. She's a technology specialist now. It says that she has had prior experience at that school. You have Miss Brandon. She's a third grade teacher. She is new to the school, but she has previous teaching experience, and that teaching experience revolved around some of the knowledge that she has for copyright infringement. And then down below, kind of some subparts of this, but you have Mrs. Williams, who is the other third grade teacher, and Mrs. Evans, who is the PTA president. So where did this take place? So this was at St. Regis School. It's a K-8 school. 9 through 12 is bus to the city. It says the city is about 25 minutes away. Student count for this school is 420. There are 2 tracks, so they've got 2 teachers per grade level, and then they have 2 special services teachers, one that works K through 4, and then 5 through 8 is the other caseload. And then the program, so it's a small rural community. The bigger city is about 25 miles away. State and federal funding is limited, and that PTA provides a majority of funding through fundraisers. It says that they do 2 major fundraisers, one at the beginning of the year, one at the end of the year. And that's kind of what kind of becomes a pivotal point in decision making if you're Mr. Sample, and how he can facilitate the relationship between the school, himself, and the PTA to make sure that those funds are still what they are, so that it can best serve the students. So to prioritize information. So a lawsuit would affect all teachers, staff, district-wide, and the PTA. In the instances that there were to be a lawsuit, it would come out that the PTA did help. They were a part of the distribution of that product. They did know about the distribution of that product. It would affect the teachers, because if there's one teacher with infringement, there's going to be an investigation of all products being used, everything that they're putting into their lesson plans, everything will be under scrutiny. And really that stretches district wide. And again, it doesn't create a great image for you either. People who still need to be consulted are stakeholders. So PTA needs to be, they need to be consulted at some point to an extent. The school board, your superintendent, and your tech developer that owns the programs. I think those are your stakeholders. Those are the people that you're trying to make sure everyone is still in good terms and relationships with the school. Who would it directly affect? So it would directly affect Mrs. Lynn. It would directly affect Mr. Sample, Miss Evans. It would directly affect St. Regis, and then it would affect the program developers, not so much in the legal aspect as far as being sued, but on the fact that they have their rights, that they can sue, or that they have a product that is now less marketable than it was before due to the infringement. So to continue, this is some of the unknown information that was kind of going around in my head. What did I need to know? What did I need to figure out, and to try to help me make a better decision? So has the superintendent been consulted and briefed on the situation? How many copies have been made and distributed? Is there more action we can do to help alleviate our wrongdoings? Have we committed enough of an act to face possible lawsuit? And what does current policy state for copyright laws? What does current school policy state for copyright laws? So making sure all of our key components, all of our leaders are on the same page. Making sure we have all of the proper information, we have all of the misused or the miscopied materials. Making sure that we're not continuing to distribute those, and then determining legally whether we are still in the right place, or if there's terms for lawsuit. And then what does our school policy say? What does it outline? Do I have enough to make a decision? I do believe that I have enough information to make a decision in order to mend the issue at hand, meaning that I have enough information that shows that there was wrongdoing, there was something against policy, and something that needs to be done. If there were to bring a lawsuit, there would be further action and information that would need to be retained as far as specific copies, how much of it was shared, what was it shared for, how was it shared, how did we misuse it, all of those that would come out in a lawsuit. I don't have that information yet, but I do have the information to make disciplinary action for our wrongdoings. So possible decisions on how I could approach this situation. How could I handle it? First one would be no action, meaning everything I've done up to this point, or Mr. Sample has done up to this point, is enough, which meant I spoke to Miss Lynn. I said, hey, that's not okay. We shouldn't be doing that. We need to get those materials collected. But that's kind of it. There's no more follow through. I leave it at that. My next option is to refer to school policy. So that's to go through and look, what does our technology user agreement say? What is the repercussions for doing so? What laws, what regulations have we in place set for our staff so that they know what's appropriate, what's not, and go from there? My next is to contact the program developer, see what that appropriate technology software would cost, see what permission we would need to make some additional copies, show them, hey, we've paid this amount, we have yours, we just want to use it differently. How can we make that? And negotiate a little bit with them to see how we can make it feasible in our building for our uses, because they've been paid. In most cases, I believe that whenever you talk to them directly, you're going to have a positive outcome. Going through some pros and cons of option one. So, no action, the incident had already occurred, the teacher was spoken to and given direction for what to do next, and that's all that can be done. Pros for that is you're less likely to see staff pushback, less likely to see initial PTA pushback. I say initial because in this case, there's not a whole lot of pushback you're going to get versus if it were long term. Let's say you do this and a lawsuit were to come up, that would be that long term pushback. But initially, I don't see any PTA pushback. You'll have less community engagement. You'll have less community coming in asking what's going on if it's kind of brushed under the rug. Cons of this: you have less control over the situation. So in the principal's shoes, you have less control over what's being said, how it's being documented, how things are being shared. You have less accountability for your staff. You're not holding them accountable for what it says in the manuals and what it says in the handbooks. You have less professional credibility, and then it creates an unfair and unethical work environment. Option number 2, refer to school policy. Identify misconduct and follow appropriate actions towards individuals found in the wrong. So you have for pros accountability, equitable leadership. You have the cease of copyright infringement, staff recognition of policy, and community support. Cons: possible dismissal of staff, tension between school and PTA, and community pushback. Option 3, contact program developer, look into consequences for copyrighted material, purchase needed material for student access. Pros: you're no longer violating those copyright laws and regulations. You have professional credibility, you're doing the right thing, and you have more materials for the students, which ultimately is the goal of Miss Lynn and the school. Cons for that is going to be the cost of the program. It already appears that funding is tight, that they're trying to make special permissions to get that funding. So the cost of cost of more materials is going to add up. It opens you up for lawsuit. Contacting them, admitting that you've done wrong, opens you up for lawsuit. Also, PTA pushback for funding. I would go with option number 2. I chose option number 2. I choose option because it demonstrates a fair and equitable course of action. I'm holding staff accountable to the rules and regulations set before them. In doing so, it also uses best judgment. For example, I don't think that all teachers involved should be dismissed. Miss Lynn and the other teachers were trying to do right by the kids. There would be repercussions such as formal write-ups. I would use this as an opportunity to also address the staff of the complexity in the situation, how copyright law would financially impact us further than the cost of additional programming. Educating the staff on current copyright laws would lead to a more fair well-being of students and adults. Number 9, implementation. How I would implement this is that I would need to identify the misconduct found in school policy and tie that information to current standing copyright laws. I would then meet with Miss Lynn formally, and I'd set up that meeting to go over infractions of that misconduct. That conversation, I would sympathize with Miss Lynn about why she made her decisions. I'd also highlight that even though I do understand her actions, that I can't let it go accounted for either. I would formally write Miss Lynn up under the infraction of the user agreement found in our school policy, or even just the fact that she put us in harm's way or made us susceptible to a lawsuit. I would work with staff to retrieve all that illegal obtained programs, get them back into my possession. I would work with staff to deliver more information and support in hopes to avoid this situation again in the future. And in doing so, I would hope to promote student and adult success and well-being. So to continue, I would address the particular situation just between Ms. Lynn and myself. I would hope this would reflectively evaluate the situation of her and possibly the repercussions of the law, really demonstrate that she understands what could have happened. What if it doesn't work? What if the misconduct behavior continues to be displayed? Then it would result of removal of that given individual. And then work with the staff again to prevent more situations from this one from occurring again. Communication with the staff would decrease the chances of reoccurrence. Overall, I really think the communication between the staff, getting everyone on the same page, holding them all to the same level, would really help us in this situation and help alleviate that. I relied heavily on the fact that the school has policies put in place. Obviously, if there were not any policies, then that's something that would be addressed immediately and would need to. Also, here is a list